Welcome to the Expert in You podcast, the show for professional entrepreneurs, experts, authors, speakers, coaches, and consultants who are ready to elevate their business, expand their influence, and boost their bank accounts. Join us as we dive deep with industry-leading experts who share their top strategies, invaluable insights, practical tips, and personal experiences to help you achieve extraordinary growth and success. Whether you're looking to sharpen your skills, stay ahead of the curve, or find that competitive edge, this podcast is your ultimate resource for unlocking your full potential. So tune in, get inspired, grab your coffee, and let's unlock the expert in you. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Expert in You podcast. I'm your host, Carden, and I'm super excited for my guest today, Karen Hairston. She is the CEO and founder of 3S Smart Consulting. Karen, welcome to my show.
Thanks for having me, Ann.
I'm really excited because Karen helps seven-figure businesses that are going to 8 actually implement systems to simplify the business and really generate higher profits. And so I know this is going to be a great conversation, as I can geek out on business and I know you can too. So I know we're going to have a lot of fun. So Karen, give a little bit of your backstory, how you got into doing your consulting business and what was your expertise up to this point and what have you done?
So I've actually been involved with helping put systems in place and processes for quite a while. Sometimes it wasn't my primary job and it's moved more to the forefront more recently. But I originally got involved in processes and systems when I worked at a startup web company quite some time ago. And one of my first days on the job, I was told, hey, go do a design document. And I was like, sure, do you have one I can follow for an example? And they said, no. And so I did some research and started to figure that out. And that kind of expanded into developing templates and processes for everything that wasn't in place. And then another example from way back then was we were working for a client and we did have some processes in place, but at that point I was a director. So I was involved in the pricing and development of the proposal and everything. And we put together what we thought was a moderately aggressive timeline because we knew the client wanted that. And it was delivered to the client and they said, we need that in half the time. So at that point, that was process improvement time. So we needed to figure out a way to be more efficient. So that's really a couple of my starting stories. And then that's where I found out that I really like to do that kind of work. So over the years, I've continued to do that, even if it wasn't the primary part of my role. And then more recently, I've been working with larger organizations like the state of Michigan, in particular, the Michigan Department of Education. And one of my initial roles, I guess you could say, with them was to help them get some of their processes online. So I'm like, great, I love doing this. So I go in, I start talking to them, and what they thought was a process really wasn't a process at all. So they figured out that everyone in the office was doing things differently and everything. So we had to work through getting actually a process on paper first that everyone could live with. So everyone, would be doing things consistently. And then we could move it into the online system. So, and then since then, I've been working with them to get other processes in place. Just, even internal ones, for example, documentation reviews and things like that. So there's always—
You worked with a lot of big organizations too. General Motors, General Motors, was that one of them? Can you just name some of the organizations you've worked with? Some really good ones.
Yeah, a lot of them have been more around like training and development processes, but I've worked with General Motors, Ford Motor Company, those are some of the larger organizations. And even though they're large, they don't always have great processes in place. So, there can always be some improvement there. And then I've also worked with some smaller tech companies and then Michigan State University.
Great. Yeah, one of the things that happens when, especially when you're talking about entrepreneurs and businesses scaling, and like you said, this even happens in large organizations. I know a lot of times they're adding systems, and then all of a sudden they have all these systems that they're not using, wasting money on, or they're not speaking to each other, and they end up with just complexity in their business, and that really eats into their profits. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I know that's one of your sweet spots, is really diving in and figuring out what can go, what can stay, what can connect. So I'll let you just talk about that a little bit.
Okay, yeah, great. That is a great question, and it does happen a lot. People do understand that systems should help them be more productive, more efficient, which in turn will eventually help their bottom line. But sometimes they put it together in a very piecemeal manner, and you're right, the systems don't talk, or they see this cool new app they can use, and then they have but then they have different departments or units, or, however they're structured. These guys are using Slack to communicate. These guys are using Skype. These guys are using something else. But it's all just very compartmentalized. So it does help. One of the things really that does help a company is if you can simplify that. So it's really a matter of just, starting with where the business sees their biggest issue, because there's always work to be done, but so you might as well get something that is a real pain point for them, and sorting through what are the processes they have in place, and which ones are effective, which ones aren't even being used, and then identifying the gaps of which ones they need to put in place. And then, as part of all that systems work, you need to figure out who all is using the processes, who it needs to communicate with, who needs to have access to that. So, and it's not always just a matter of implementing a new piece of technology. I mean, it could be something on a sticky note if that's what works, but you have to make sure that communication is occurring and everyone's getting what they need to get their part of the process done.
Right. So what are some of the pain points that you see with companies when they sort of have this disconnect, or they don't have things implemented, it's not smooth? Talk about that a little bit, some of their problems.
So some of the common problems, and almost every company will go through this regardless of their size. I mean, you'll start to see maybe you're working really hard and you're making more sales, so your top line revenue is bigger, but you're noticing that your profit, your actual dollars coming, that you have as profit, are going down. So you've got decreased profit. You've got maybe an increase in customer complaints because things are getting dropped. People are dropping the ball, not necessarily intentionally. You've got quality issues, maybe not delivering on time. You've got just, inconsistency and that type of thing. Oh, and then one other thing that people don't often think of as related to processes is employee retention. So if you start to see, that you're getting a lot of employees leaving, you might want to think about maybe there's an issue with your onboarding process. They want to do a good job, but they're not getting the support that they need. Or, things are changing so rapidly and you're not keeping people up to date. So employee retention is a big thing that you might see go down when you're missing the systems, and
which also completely affects profit. It can be one of the most expensive things that happens in a business, is to keep having turnover and have that revolving door. I mean, it's so expensive to bring in new people and try to replace people. And if you're using any kind of recruiter, all of that is just right off your bottom line.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And there's estimates out there, and it kind of depends on the level of the person. But yeah, and it's just even the time lost, right? And the productivity lost, not just if you're, paying a recruiter to help, but, a lot of estimates are it either costs you that person's salary, times one, or all the way up to times 10 if you're talking about some of your high level people.
Right. Yeah. So what what are some things people should look for if they're looking, like if they really think, I'm hearing Karen, I'm understanding what she says, but what are the things I should be looking for to see if I need a Karen to come into my business and help with the things that she's an expert at doing?
Well, I mean, I think some of the things that we just talked about there are your profits going down, employees turning over, quality issues. And then think about, are you losing clients? So if you don't have clients, you don't have a business, right? So
no point bringing them in the front door and losing them out the back door, for sure.
exactly. So that's actually one of the first things after we do some goal setting when I work with clients. The first thing we'll address is any process that actually touches a client, from marketing to sales to how you collect payment to how you onboard that client once you deliver the service or the product that your company provides. So we'll start with those types of processes, and then we'll start looking at your internal operations and what needs to be systematized or maybe just isn't working that efficiently, and then it can work more smoothly. And that's all prepping you to scale, right? You've got to have all this in place in order to scale. And then once you have the processes in place, then we kind of put in an Uber process, if you want to think about it that way, where you're looking at your metrics on a regular basis and seeing where you have to make adjustments. And it doesn't take half your clients walking out the door or,
to say there's something wrong.
Right. You notice it and you can be proactive about it there.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's such great information too. And one of the things that I really want to talk about, and as a business coach, and I don't do what you do, but one of the things that I see is when people are scaling, when they're in growth like that, or even hyper growth, and all these things start slipping through the cracks, they continue to keep trying to do the same things, to thinking that that's going to fix the problem, or they're consistently putting out fires, but they're not really getting to the root of the problem. They're not really fixing the real cause and the real issues. But the other thing I want to mention with this, and you can let me know if you see this as well, is they have to understand that this is normal. Like every business goes through this, every company goes through this. Every time you're going to a new level, you're going to have a new set of challenges and problems that you have to work through and get through. And a lot of times, especially like business owners or entrepreneurs, they like the ego comes into play and they don't often get the help that they need because they feel almost embarrassed, or they feel like this shouldn't be a problem. I should have this. And so I wanted to speak to that because I want people listening to this to know it is common. We all go through it when we are growing our businesses, and you can't know everything and you can't be an expert at everything, and you can't possibly learn all of the things that you need to learn often. That's why you have to have great people. That's why you have to bring in people that can help you really be able to move through those challenges and turn them into opportunities. Would you agree with that?
Oh, that's exactly true. So every business goes through stages, right? And you hear them, different people call them different things, but you've got startup, you've got growth, you've got scaling, you've got, selling the business, and it kind of at every inflection point there, what you were doing kind of doesn't get you any further. You hit a roadblock there, and what has been working isn't working anymore. And that happens in most any size business or any business really. And being able to let go is another big one. Not only, some people are like, gosh, this is my company, this is my sweet spot, I'm an expert at whatever my business is, I'm an expert at that. But just because you're an expert at your craft, whatever you were doing before you started the business, there's a lot of different skills and activities that go on to run a business, right?
Yes.
So say you were a computer programmer or a web developer or, a marketer before.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know all the other pieces of
Right.
running a business? And so, and that's where your team does come in. And I really do believe that your team is your most important asset.
Right.
It's not the computers, it's not some big piece of machinery if you're in manufacturing or, product development or anything. It's really your people. And at a certain point, if you're going to grow and be able to scale, you do have to hand off to people, your team, that have one more time. And so, don't be afraid to let them be an expert. It doesn't make you any less of a CEO. It actually makes you a better
Makes you
CEO.
smarter. Yes, it makes you better. Hi, friend. I have an exciting announcement. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Expert in You podcast, but I have to ask you, have you checked out the latest issue of Expert in You magazine yet? It's jam-packed with rich content, powerful strategies, inspiring stories, and so much more to help you elevate your business and personal growth. Don't miss out. Go grab your digital copy now and join our community of experts making a difference every day. Go to expertinyoumagazine.com and check out your digital copy today. Transform your expertise into success with Expert in You magazine. It's not just a publication, it is a movement. One thing I want to talk about too is part of like to bring in a Karen to look at your business is when people are in your business, they're seeing one part of it. They're typically not looking at the entire thing. And when we always say, what's the saying, when you're inside the bottle, you can't read the label. That goes for your employees. That goes for you as an owner. It's so much easier to bring someone in who actually knows the bolts to turn, knows the things to look at, to say, okay, these are the issues. These are the things that we can fix to make things run smoother and operate smoother. And it's easy for an outside person who is an expert at what they do to come in and see that very often, very quickly, where a business will, and I know, from working with hundreds of them, they will sometimes go on that hamster wheel, stay on that hamster wheel, keep spinning their wheels, thinking it's going to get better, but it doesn't, and they can't really pinpoint where the issue is, or they can't really figure it out. And so that is really the value of bringing in an expert consultant who can help with these areas and work alongside your team. And that's really what you do, right? You partner with them and really make their team strong and work alongside them so that their business can operate smoothly. Did I say that in the right way for you?
Yes, exactly. I mean, sometimes it just takes a second set of eyes, someone who's not so close to the business, and some things will jump right out. There may be some other things that are a little bit buried, but with kind of going through I don't want to say audit, like in
because you know what to look for,
a
right?
terrible way.
And you know the questions to ask. That makes a big difference. Yeah.
Exactly. There's kind of a set of questions, or if you answer this way, I'm going to go, okay, well, what about this? And kind of just work through and help identify some of those areas, and then help prioritize what will give you your biggest bang for the buck. And yeah, depending on what the client wants, sometimes, and a lot of times the size of the company, sometimes I'll just work with the CEO one-on-one, and they'll go and make things happen. But there are other times that maybe they want a team involved. So maybe I'm, meeting with the CEO X number of times a month, but then working more closely with a certain team, like on the processes or systems, and kind of helping facilitate that work. So there's kind of a wide range. I've even had clients where I'm actually more hands-on involved and not just playing a consultant role. So,
you have different options for people, is what you're saying, different ways that you can
lots
work
of
with them.
Different options depending on what you have the capacity to do and how quickly you want to move. So but my goal is really to, help small businesses, entrepreneurs, CEOs, founders just
Mhm.
succeed. I mean, we've all
Right.
heard the success rates, right? Not
Oh
always that
gosh.
great about how many even make it 5 years, or how many can, hit that $1 million mark. That's less
Mhm.
than 3%. But you can
Right.
do it if you have the right things in place.
Yeah, I actually love your tagline here. I'm looking at your website and it says systematize and simplify scaling to 7 and 8 figures with higher profits. Here's the key, while getting your life back. We know as businesses grow and scale, often the CEO, the owner, the person at the top, the founder, they end up just not having a life. And even a lot of times wrecking their health, wrecking their relationships. And I don't feel like that is a well-rounded business to let everything else fall apart around you. So I love that you do help them get their life back. That's so important. And that's the whole purpose, right? You don't want a business that owns you or runs you. You want to be running that business.
Exactly. And we're not saying you have to go on like 8-month vacations, but what do you want to be doing with that extra time?
Mm-hmm.
What would you rather be doing? And maybe
Right.
it's just working on a different piece of your business, or only working
Yeah.
with your really high-end clients,
Mm-hmm.
but you shouldn't have to proofread a memo that's going out, so
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
making the best use of your time and
Mm-hmm.
letting you do what you want to do.
Right. I want to read these 5 things that I'm seeing on your site here because they're super powerful. One is you're basically saying here's the 5 things that are going to happen when you actually get systems in place and you have smooth operations. You say you're going to attain your business and personal goals. You're going to achieve more while doing less. Who doesn't want to do that, right? You say yes to what you love to do and no to what you don't. I love that. And then create an amazing workplace for you and your team. And then number 5 is build your business around the life you want and not your life around your business, which we just talked about. So I love that, Karen. I think everyone can use a Karen Hairston and 3S Smart Consulting when they are in this growth mode, because the thing I like about you too, and you're really different because a lot of people do systems and things like that, but you're also a certified profit coach and you have done a lot around profitability as well. And so a lot of people, they maybe are great at systems, but they don't really understand the financial side of it. And I love that you do both. And I think that makes you just so exceptional in your space, in your consulting business and the opportunities that you can open for your clients.
Yeah, and honestly, and I'm really enjoying that part. I'm by no means an
Mm-hmm.
accountant, or but if I decided to add that on because you have to have a goal to work for, right? And we have
Mm-hmm.
to have something measurable we can see how
Right.
we're doing. And just saying I want to make a lot of money
It
doesn't cut
doesn't
it, right? You
doesn't get you. It's not, there's no GPS behind that one.
Right. Exactly. So, you have to, what do you want to do? Do you want to
Mm-hmm.
retire in 10 years? Do you want to be able to give $1 million to charity? Do you
Mm-hmm.
want to sell your business someday? That will help us set what's your goal,
Mm-hmm.
like having to do with your profit, because what do
Right.
you want to do with that money? And so I think that's a very important piece that I don't think everybody does,
No, it definitely sets you apart. And that's why you can say higher profits. A lot of people that are putting in systems, well, we know when you put in systems and you streamline things, your profits are going to go up. But I wanted to bring that up because you actually have training and certifications in profitability and different strategies and ways to help people with their profits. And that's a really huge value to anyone that does bring you in. So you're not just in there as an extra pair of hands. You really are a trusted advisor, a partner to them to make sure that they have the highest success that they can. So I love that. And I just wanted to bring it in. I wanted to toot your horn for you because I don't really think you said too much about
No,
that. So
no, I did get buried more in the systems, didn't I? But that profitability piece, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and in fact, one of the first things we'll do, we'll do the goal setting, but then there's also, finding some hidden cash, some really quick things you can do in your business,
Yeah.
especially if you're having cash flow issues
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. There are some quick things you can do up front. Just making
Right.
more money doesn't always solve all problems, right?
No,
It's
in fact,
what you do with
I
that.
have worked with a lot of multi-million-dollar businesses that the owner was not even making $20,000 a
Yeah.
year. I mean, you would think, really, how can that possibly happen? Yes, it does. It absolutely does. It doesn't mean there's income for the owner. It doesn't mean they're putting anything away for their future. They're just building this thing and grinding it out, and they don't have much to show for it except a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So I know my heart is to not have that happen, and I know that's your heart as well. We're really in this to help people and help
Right.
them be
Right.
successful. So I love that. Karen, you have kind of a program or a framework. Would you like to just talk about that for a minute, kind of the process that you work in?
Yeah, so it's called the 3S Profit Optimizer. And, I mentioned the steps a little bit before, but really what we do once we have some goals set is that first tier, that first layer of the program is securing and signing more clients, right? You want to keep your good clients, get rid of some of the bad ones or all the bad ones if you can, because sometimes those are more expensive than they're worth. And then how do you, attract and get more of the right client? So that's kind of that first layer. And that's where we go into, what are all the different systems and processes that touch a client? So we focus on that first. And then once we've got those kind of under control, then we'll move into looking at your internal operations and, so HR and, the things that are going to help you keep your employees. I mean, certainly some of the systems work we do in the first level is going to help keep your employees sane and help them not leave. But then, that second layer, simplify and systematize your operations, is more focused on those internal processes and getting ready to scale. And then the third layer is to really supercharge scalability and profits. All right. That's why, once you have all your systems in place and a way to monitor those systems on a regular basis, you can adjust on the fly, right? Maybe there is a time of year you want to back off a little bit, or, if you want to really go gangbusters, but then you've got everything in place and you know exactly which systems and you need to adjust and how to adjust them so that you don't end up back where you started from. Really, it just ends up being a well-oiled machine.
Very cool. I want to actually bring up, I'm looking at some of these stats that you have here, and I think I really want to talk about this because under your secure and sign more clients, which is sort of like the first process that you take people through, it says here 63% of customers will likely make additional purchases after a positive customer experience. And on average, will spend 2 times more. Wow, that is powerful. And just that one thing alone can definitely impact their bottom line, right?
Right.
But then you have under simplify and systematize operations, you have by streamlining operations, the average cost reduction is 20 to 40%. That's huge. These are huge numbers. And then supercharge scalability and profits. This says when you enhance efficiency to supercharge productivity, performance, and revenue growth, on average, 40% over a 3-year period of higher profitability. Those are really some kind of staggering numbers. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. And just think about when you stack those on top
When
of
you
each other.
stack them, yes. Yes, absolutely.
More clients, twice as much revenue from your recurring customers, and then also cut your expenses or, your costs in the middle there. I mean, just those two alone, and then over time, how much that affects your profitability.
Yeah.
And, you have that many more options, right? When you do have that.
Yeah. You offer some sort of an assessment on your website that people can go and take to kind of identify if they have some areas that they're probably, I say, leaking profits or leaking money. or things aren't working as smoothly as they can. Would you like to just talk about that assessment a little bit? And then we're going to make sure we add all the links into the show notes and everything so people can go get on her website, book a call if they need to, take that assessment. So Karen, I'll just let you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you just kind of want to get a feel for where you might want to start working in your systems or where you probably could use some improvement there. I have an assessment, the 5-minute profit multiplier. And if you go to my site, which is 3smartconsulting.com, it'll come up as a pop-up periodically, but there's also a link at the top that says take the assessment. And it really does only take 5 minutes, and then you can get your results emailed to you, and it tells you, which level you might want to focus on, right? Secure and sign more clients, or the simplify and systematize, or the supercharge part. I mean, when I work with people, we always start at the bottom, and maybe we can go real quick, but we just want to make sure we didn't miss anything.
That you don't miss anything.
That
right.
Then we have to go back. We don't want to be up in supercharge and go, oh, geez,
there's this big problem down here. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Everything in sequence.
Right. But, we might be able to go through some of them more quickly. Sure. But so, yeah, that assessment is there. And also when I, one of the other things I offer is just a free fast track strategy call too. So if you think you might be a good fit, totally free call. We'll kind of talk through how your business is going, where you have some issues. We'll, and I'll give you some strategies right there, and some ideas where I would recommend starting.
Nice. Well, Karen, I certainly can tell you know your stuff. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Anyone would be so fortunate to have you come into their business and help them streamline things, make their business more enjoyable, get time back into their life, and make a lot more money and a lot more profits, which is really what matters, right?
Yes.
So I have loved this conversation. Thank you so much for sharing this. And I think that you are going to give 7-figure businesses that are going to 8, you're going to really give them some things to think about here that I think are going to be super powerful. And I hope that they'll reach out to you. And I can vouch for Karen. I've known her for quite a while now, and I'm just so impressed with everything she has accomplished and done. And it's almost like she's bringing all of that expertise. Well, she is bringing all of that expertise from all those large companies and organizations that she's worked with and done amazing things with. And she is able to bring that to entrepreneurs and business owners who are really in growth mode and trying to scale and have just major success and maybe even exit their business at some point. So thank you so much for being here. This has been great conversation.
Yeah, I've loved it. And thank you so much for having me. And I'd be glad to come back someday.
Awesome. Well, make sure you reach out to Karen, go check out her site, take that assessment, book a call with her. Like she said, it's a free call. You have nothing to lose. Just have a conversation with her and see where she might be able to help you in your business. Look, nobody does it alone. We do not have to climb the mountain alone. There are experts out there like Karen that can come in, and she does the stuff I just do not like to do at all in business with systems. So I love that. But she has some done for you, but then she'll also train your people. She'll also partner with you. So she has a lot of different options for how she can work with you. So it is definitely worth a call. So again, thank you, Karen, for being here. This has been fun.
Thank you, Ann.
All right, everyone. Until next time, this has been such an amazing conversation, and I hope that you will share this when it actually goes out. And I always say sharing is caring. So God bless you all. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in today. If you're as excited as I am about scaling up your influence, business, and bank account, then I have just the thing for you. But first, make sure you subscribe to the show. Second, make sure you share it with someone you care about, because sharing is caring. And third, head on over to join me in my next free virtual exclusive workshop, where we'll explore proven strategies to boost your business and maximize your potential. Look, it doesn't matter if you're just starting out or if you're looking to take your business to the next level, my workshops are designed for you. So head on over to expertinyouworkshop.com to reserve your spot and get ready to transform your expertise into extraordinary success. I'm looking forward to seeing you there and helping you achieve incredible growth. Until next time, make sure you're always seeking the expert in you, and God bless. Have an amazing day.